All right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. It is a very special episode. It's a live podcast recording we did at Adelaide Oval. So I want to say a big thank you to, firstly, Ego, Cress, Toro and Greenworks for all jumping on board and making this happen. I want to do a really big thank you as well though to the team at Adelaide Oval, and specifically Adelaide Oval Turf Solutions, which are a arm of the Adelaide Oval Turf managers who can go out to sites, private schools or other stadiums and actually do work there. So if you're in that sort of sphere, go ask them. But Adelaide Oval, I want to say, they were so good to deal with, so easy to talk to, the staff were so friendly, and the fact that they said yes to this idea, not only did they say yes, but they provide the perfect location. They're just a great people to work with. I really appreciate that, and that stuff's really rare sometimes. So it's great that these people are supporting what we're doing. And then also we've got the guest lineup that we've got to talk about. If you didn't know already, it was Ben Sims, who is from Lawn Tips, a lawn YouTuber, much loved and followed. He's made a whole golf course, well, a golf par 3 hole at his house, USPGA spec. Also a former golf course superintendent, so really knows his stuff. We have Damien Hough, who is the current head curator of Adelaide Oval, and has done some amazing things traveling internationally. Even just for the recent World Cup in America, he was the one overseeing a pitch there in New York for the first time. And then you have JT, who we met in the tour that we just did, the assistant curator, very knowledgeable guy, very nice guy. And then finally Les Burdett, the legendary head curator of Adelaide Oval, was there for about 40 years. So what an amazing turf lineup. It goes long, but the engagement was great. People still were asking questions, and we actually had to kind of rush it at the end because of how much people are enjoying it. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the podcast.
I want to start with you, Les, if we can, at the end of the table there. 40-something years at Adelaide Oval, right? And you're running the show here. What level of insanity was there to pick Houghy to take over, mate?
He was the best.
Oh, look at that. He had a chance to burn you. But what did you actually see in Houghy when you were like, because you're coming to the end of your time, and a lot of people, when they're in a form of leadership, they really struggle to give control over.
Luke, start with thanks for the opportunity. I thought this thing was starting at 4 o'clock and finishing at 7:30, but that was the information I got from Damien before he went to America, and it's changed since. So it's time for me to go home. It's gone up past 7. But in reality, I got a phone call from his boss, Daryl, down at, he was down, one of the councils down south. He said, I've got this kid here that shows a fair bit of go. And his name is Damien Hough. Would you look after him for 2 weeks? So I said, we'll send him up with a test match running. And the test match was on. And after I thought, I ring Daryl and let him know the good news and the bad news. So I rang his boss and said, there's good news and bad news. Good news, kid's good. Bad news, I'm going to keep him so he can get stuff. And a little while after that, he'd been here for 2 or 3 years and starting to get his footing in. And I'm walking just outside this room, actually. And it was late at night, and his brother, who happened to be a twin I'd never met before, his identical twin, was pissed. And he came up to me and he said, Les, you can stick your job up your ass. And I said, you'd have to be Bronte, you're not Damien, because Damien would never say that to me. And I was correct. But Damien is currently the golden-haired boy in Australian cricket. I think with the redevelopment, the $535 million just spent here from 2010 onwards when I retired, this ground has always been the most picturesque cricket ground in the world. And even in the 2000s, all the commentators got together and they thought, if we're going to play a game of cricket against Mars, and we picked the best team in the world to play against Mars, where would you play it? And all the commentators want to play here in Adelaide. I think currently the Adelaide Oval, as it is, the drop-in pitches and what Damien and the boys are doing here, is an envy of world cricket. It is the envy of world cricket. Not only is it a fantastic playing surface, but it's got the ambience, it's got the scoreboard, it's got the new with the old, it's all married in together. And I think that's enough of the question, isn't it, and the answer? So I'll shut up at the moment. No, but I just love Adelaide Oval. I just think it's the epitome of greatness.
It's about
Well, I mean, I think by the sounds of it, you're the only person who's trying to get home at 7:30. So I'll take as all the answers you got. I'll go with you, Ben. You'll have to steal Houghy's microphone. Well, firstly, you're not the only. Apparently, you're only identical twin on the. I mean, we'll talk about that later. 3. Okay, how many more identical twins have we got? No, I mean, we're still odds on. We've gone well over that. Whatever the average statistic would be. We just went around Adelaide Oval, and you've seen a lot of things turf-wise, golf course, all that sort of stuff. What stuck out to you the most, or even was the most fascinating thing walking around, looking at how they did stuff?
I think when JT was showing us the drop-in pictures, like, that blew my mind. Just the way that I can't even explain how it all works. Like, JT and Hoff can talk about that, but just how insane it is how they pull them out, and just the fine detail that goes into look after those pitches, and just bringing in clay from certain areas and how they grow them. Like, it just, blew my mind. Knew nothing about it. Still know nothing about it, but it's just interesting as.
Well, pass it on to JT for now. But actually, that one. JT's got his own microphone. JT, I didn't realise, I got a little sense of this because of my podcast I did with Matt Oliver, that he did some late nights. But you guys, you really stay back, and there's a level of dedication that I think is underappreciated. You know, refs are in the same boat to me, where sports lovers like myself, you know, we love the sport, we idolise the athletes, they get paid a lot of money, they deserve it in my opinion, but no one really thanks the ground staff to start with, umpires as well. But you guys work back till past midnight, not that infrequently, really, right?
Yeah, that's a regular occurrence. The Matildas game that we just had, that was a 24-hour round-the-clock job for the whole crew, so we split shifts, and yeah, there was someone here for 24 hours straight, effectively. Test match day night is pretty similar, where we're here early mornings and then late into the night. Drop-ins are done, drop-in changeover is done overnight. It's start at 4 p.m, probably finishing at 4 a.m, 5 a.m in the morning, and then do it all again the next day.
It's so much dedication to that. So I'm hoping your creative juice is gone. We'll go to Houghy for one more question, and then I'm actually going to throw it out. Dylan's going to be roving around, giving people big cuddles and microphone as well. But Houghy, you've just come back from what we just touched on before. It's probably the most unique turf experience, I think, of anybody I've ever met, period. To create, I'm guessing that was the first cricket game in New York, right? I mean, obviously, it's some casual ones, people playing in the park, but first official ICC game around that area, the complications with it. I see you've lost some hair with all the stress to it. But how did you feel going through that?
No, it was pretty cool. So it was an amazing experience. I really come off the back of 12 months of work and planning, approached, basically 12 months ago by the ICC to see if we were interested in doing the work, and glad to be back. So it's pretty intense, but it was really building 10 drop-in pitches. 6 of them we built here in Adelaide with an engineer that we'd been talking to for probably 4 or 5 years about what's the next step in tray design. For us, it's about trying to get a longer format pitch to deteriorate. So we'd had a lot of conversations internally with the team, but also with the engineer on what we needed to do. We built a couple here 12 months ago, with Saka now having 2 drop-ins down at Karen Rolton Oval. We were able to give them 2 of ours, and we built 2 more. So we've been doing this work for a little while, and then it was just an unbelievable ride, and it went really, really well. The 5 months to put the soil in, early December, turf going in early January, to be playing on it in the start of June is pretty crazy, to be honest with you. We would always give ourselves 12 months before we would use a drop-in. Anything less than under 12 months, you're giving yourself a bit of an out clause, because it can be pretty challenging and there is excuses there. But we had 5 months, and we worked really, really hard to get them right, consolidate them, develop growth with the roots, get the turf as healthy as we can, get the compaction in there. And they weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at the scores and if you delve deep into the reports, you'd see that they weren't perfect. They were a little bit inconsistent, but we were really proud that the pitches that were 5 months old, the first two, the warm-up game was quite good, 180 India made. So the first 2 games didn't quite go to plan, and then we tweaked a few things every game, really, and then we had to do some pretty radical stuff at the night of the second game to get them where we wanted to.
What was the radical thing to do?
So what we did, really, Les, was, and those that are pitch curators understand this, but a lot of people don't. So really, it's to create a cricket pitch. You need a compact clay, or the pitch is heavily compacted, a nice even amount of grass where the ball will just kiss off and come onto the bat really well. In the whole preparation, everything we did was better than what we could ever imagine. With the consolidation phase, we were basically making the pitch as we were building it, because we had to. We didn't have time. So we were able to drive root growth with the products that are available now. We're able to drive root growth in 5 months down over 8 inches, which was, again, unbelievable. The transporting logistical challenges to transport around 1,800 kilometres from a place called Boynton Beach in Florida up the east coast to New York or to Long Island, Nassau County. We thought it was going to take 24 hours. They were somewhere between 28 to 90 hours. Depends on where the truck driver decided to go. So, and there was challenges along the way. So there's a lot of work that was going on. A lot of people, that were kept in-house that we didn't talk about other than probably now. So
it's all going to come out.
Yeah. So there was a few challenges, and we got in there, but they went in really well. The turf was really healthy. There was a little bit of disease come in. We wrapped them. We wrapped the trays so we weren't putting them out there to the elements, driving through the countryside for 2, 3, 4 days. They were wrapped and protected, and they come out after even the 4 days and 90 hours, and they were in really good condition. Put them in the ground, let them acclimatise for 4 or 5 days, and then started working on them. We worked on them, and I was really excited, like a kid in a candy shop. Like, I was just like, how good, these are rolling out really well, soft leaf, exactly the way we would see things back here. And then what happened over the 5 to 7 days of preparation, we were stoked, and then we gave them a rest, let them tip back again, fill them back up with water, because you need good water through the profile, so flood it up and get the water into them. Work them again. They worked up well. The final time, that last week, when we started prepping them, they started to get these grassy veins, is what I'd call them, but these grassy lines through them, snaky lines, and almost like plate size, where you can imagine cracks would start to form, which again we were going, geez, it's not what we're used to in Adelaide. But as a pitch dries, a natural, a clay that is naturally swelling and shrinking, as it dries, it shrinks. So as it shrinks, it can crack, and that's okay. So that doesn't mean it's a bad pitch. So I was feeling it, and it felt really good. But what we found was these grassy veins, the balls were biting in and nipping off them. And I reckon they were a little bit inconsistent, even though when you put your hand over it, Les, you couldn't feel any undulations. When you mowed, it didn't feel like any waves through it, but they were just a little bit inconsistent this way, and they were doing a bit this way. So game 1, warm-up game, we were 5 mil, good moisture. We measure our moisture, so we were happy. We're around that 28%. Game 2, we were always going to take a little bit more grass off, so we're down at 4 mil onto another pitch. It played terrible, shithouse. And I had a bad feeling about it going into it. And I was like, oh, what do we do? And then we moved over to the third game, and that was just as bad. So what we did, getting back to your first question,
What was radical?
Yeah, the radical part for us was we put fine soil out there and literally top dressed the block and screeded it, got a straight edge and just trowed it, screeded it, and tried to get but every way we possibly could. And one was to try and dilute the greeny veins, and the second part was if there were any undulations, we were pulling them out. Wet them up that night, stayed there till midnight, working on them. So the game was 10:30 till about 1:30. Worked on them all afternoon, all night, because we had a day off that was raining, and then we had 7 days in a row of games. So
Stressful.
but it worked.
Enough.
If you read the score, maybe it didn't, but it did. It worked, and what it did was the variation of from here to here with the pounce become slightly here, and the feedback was much better, and the ICC were really supportive but appreciative at the same time, and yeah, it's good.
I've got a question for you, Les, but what I'm gonna do is, if you guys got a question, put your hand up now. There's one in the back corner there for Dylan. Thank you for being the first. I appreciate it. Les, while we're waiting for this question to be asked, when you heard about what was going on with the World Cup in America, did you think you would see something ever like this in your lifetime, where they've gone, no, we're actually going to go to America, we're going to bridge out that way, or did you just think that was a lost cause?
Listen, I'm an old dog and I have lots of case history, so I don't want to undermine anything Damien's done, because I think it was just bloody fantastic. But I remember Sachin Tendulkar's manager, Mark Siosi or something like that, he asked me years ago, he wanted to build a pitch and put it on a barge and take it up to New York and play a game. He had the audacity to get killed in a car accident, so it never happened. Lots of things have happened since dropping pitches in Melbourne in late 1998. And when they built the cricket pitch in the MCG, that cricket pitch gave drop-in pitches a very poor reputation, because when they built them, and it was new frontier stuff, they put a concrete slab out the middle that's 25 metres by 25 metres and put 10 or 12 cricket pitches on top. But those cricket pitches had a metal frame of 6 inches or 200 with 2 inches or 50 mil of clay sitting above them. And they're sitting on concrete. So when it got hot in Melbourne, the plant dehydrated. So it's a bit like putting a pot plant out in front of your house and you're sitting on concrete on a hot day. The same plant that's in the ground lives and survives. So one's sitting on the concrete, you've got to go and give it a drink. So the drop-in pitches of the MCG were benign shit pitches for drop-in pitches, and it gave drop-in pitches a very poor name. Then when Damien got in here, and I've been involved with them through Docklands in 2000, we built one and put it on a truck and took it down to Docklands and played South Africa, and that's all part of the learning process for me. But when Damien built them here, he was smart enough to put a concrete frame down the edge and put sandy loam underneath, so the plant actually roots go through the frame of the clay into the loam underneath. So when the cricket pitch comes out, the roots are hanging down a foot. So the Adelaide pitches always had bounce and carry, because the grass was growing, the plant was photosynthesising, you had a bit of chlorophyll in the leaf that lubricated the ball. Everything was good for cricket, as it should be. MCG was benign, the plant was straw, the plant shut down, and nothing was happening. There was boring cricket pitches. So since then, it's only been the last 5 years that the MCG have finally, in my capacity as pitch advisor of Cricket Australia and talking to Damien and all the boys around the place, it's just not me, it's a combination of everybody's opinion. They've finally taken the concrete out of the MCG, and finally they've got pitches that bounce and carry. It's funny but the reality was that concrete was holding it back. So I think that half answers what you asked me.
I didn't even care, it was just interesting. What was the question we've got in the back corner?
Damien, what did the Americans think of the pitch of that calibre? They probably wouldn't have seen anything like that before.
In general, they were really excited. I think. I mean, they were 120, but they were close games, and they were pretty, wrapped. Those that didn't get the game, they were just excited for close games, exciting, contests. The feedback from the coaches and the players, they were very mindful and they were respectful that we were doing the best we could with 5 months old pitches. In the end, it was, everyone sort of was appreciative. The ICC were really supportive, and they said it was hugely successful. It was coming from the tournament manager and the CEO. Come and spoke to me a couple of times. The ICC CEO and the tournament CEO, and a couple of times, and they were really, really happy with how they were by the end. So everything. It was really successful tournament. Cricket's going to grow over there, I guarantee. It's going to end up taking off.
Damien, I'm interested to know when you consider that in the world of cricket, and you chuck India, Pakistan, Australia, England, 80% of the total money in cricket comes out of India. All the money comes out of India, and that's why they're untouchable. When you go to ask them to do something, it's their way or the bloody highway. I can say that now. I wouldn't say it before. But Damien, what I'm alluding to is who was patronising the games? Were they actually local Yanks going to have a look, or was it Indian and Pakistan and Pommies going to view the cricket?
Yeah, a lot of it was the expats, mate. So we were fortunate enough, being a 34,000 seat pop-up stadium, like unbelievable sort of. When you walked in there, it was something you'd never seen before. Biggest stadium probably in the World Cup by a considerable amount, definitely in America. We had 4 games. One was a warm-up game that they allowed 10 or 20,000 locals in. But we had 3 India games. So you can imagine there's 33,500 Indians and 500 whoever they were playing. So India, Pakistan, biggest game you can get in world cricket, was just pumping. But Bangladesh there must have been 20,000 Bangladeshians who just, if you can remember the 2015 game here when they beat England, I think, they are so passionate, borderline crazy, but they were up and about the whole time, 20,000. South Africa, it was South Africa, Bangladesh, and the last game was India and America. And America had such a good tournament that there's quite a few, I was going to say Americans, but they're probably Indians anyway. So, but it was a lot of people.
Any Red Indians paying for the Americans?
No, but it was unbelievable. You can see there's definitely a lack of understanding of cricket, but they wanted to understand cricket. Like the Americans, a 6 was a home run. I hit a home run. It's a 6, you idiot. So so they've just got to get used to the game, and they didn't care that it was a 120 because it was close. Whereas I was disappointed that they weren't 170, 180s chasing it down. They were just rapt to see good cricket.
Do we have another question from the audience? There we go, over there.
Yeah, thanks, mate. What variety of cooch or what variety of turf did you use on the wickets over there? Were you able to get some Santa Ana over there, or
nah? So we ended up. You have to use the local knowledge. Again, Bermuda. But we ended up going with Tahoma 31. So the Tahoma. So the Tahoma was grown locally up the road in Florida, about half an hour from where the yard was. And the reason that Tahoma was chosen was really that they didn't have any washing plants down there. So it was all washed by hand, 10 pitches by hand. And a lot of the soil, again, you're thinking this is early January or late, in between Christmas and New Year's and early January. You couldn't go very much higher, because it was dormant. So they were talking about, I can't remember the name of the turf, but the other local variety that they were looking at because it was still dormant. So we ended up finding this farm that was growing in sand, and the decision was made to go with the Tahoma because it can handle, obviously, and it looked good. It could handle the environment in Florida, but you knew that the Tahoma could handle the cooler climates that New York was going to give us at that time. So
Similar to Santa Ana? Similar?
talking
about foliage and
probably, reasonably. It was maybe a little bit coarser. Probably didn't thatch up as much. Could handle if you look at the literature, can handle the winter, the cooler climate a lot better. But it thrived in the environment down in Florida, Andrew. So the decision was made to use it. Had a really good root structure. We needed something to really drive roots quickly. And we were getting, in Florida, after 10 days, we had root structure down over 50 millimetres. Because not only were we doing work with the drop-ins for New York in Florida, but we were also sent staff over to assist with building the practice pitches and the centre wicket area at Fort Lauderdale at Broward County, where they had 4 games, but unfortunately 3 of them got washed out. So, and they chose the same grass variety because of those same reasons.
Ben, I've got a question for you, mate, because you are wanting to do a turf plot at your house eventually, which has all these varieties, or as many as you can get. Compare them all. Obviously, you're not going to be making cricket pitches in every single one. But for the average punter, how much of a difference does it make for the average goals that people have in reality to your the home lawn? Does it really matter that much between the brands, or is there actually that much of a difference?
To the different cultivars?
Yeah.
There's going to be a difference in visual quality, and some cultivars will thatch up more, thatch up less. But I mean, it comes down to personal preference when it comes to a home lawn. You're not preparing a wicket for cricket. You're not doing things for golf. You're not doing anything for sports. It's a personal preference for home. So choose something you like the look of and something you like the way it grows. Like something like Tifta, for example, you can't put too much nitrogen in it, so you can't fertilise it much. Whereas Tahoma, as you were speaking about, you can put less inputs into it. It's probably got a less dense sward in that sense, but some people want their grass to be thicker, some want it thinner. It's just, in the end, with a home lawn, personal preference all day of the week.
So we have a question out in the field. Got someone in the back there. I found personally, when people are, I guess the further along we get here, the less intense the turf care actually is, But I deal with clients. We do residential work. I deal with clients all the time who they haven't turned their retic on. They haven't fertilised in 16 years. They don't care. Their dog digs up holes and they go, "Oh, this wintergreen sucks." And you're like, "Mate, I think it's you." Anyway, what's the question?
Thanks. Just a question directed at Ben, actually, to do with Brenton and the Aussie lawn. He has a lawn underneath the side of his green. I think it's Tiff Dwarf. 2-part question. Is that the same lawn that's recently been released by Lawn Solutions Australia? And if you were doing a home lawn in this climate here and wanted to keep it at a 4 or 5 millimetre high of cut just for a hobby, would that be the type of lawn you would choose, or what would be the type of lawn you would choose?
The lawn that Brendan has from memory is a zoysia. I think it's a primo zoysia. So it's not a couch grass. So you could 100% use that in a home lawn. I'd say it's probably a bit chilly, be putting zoysia out. It would be stunted for 4 months, 5 months of the year, you know what I mean? So you'd be I'd go Santa Ana if you want to get something that's local and going to work well, or whatever. I don't know what you guys have around the turf farms, whatever, but you'd go a couch grass and a hybrid couch at that you could get down to that 4 to 5 mil. Zoysia, I probably wouldn't dabble too much in it, especially if you've got frost hanging around or anything sub 10 degrees. It tends to really struggle once you get hit by those cool temps. It's a tropical grass originally. I think it'll get bigger and bigger in Australia, Zoysia. But for climates like here where there is frost and it is cool season grass does thrive as well a lot more, Zoysia is probably not going to be the way to go, yeah.
Dylan, if you can find someone else who's got a question, I've got one for you, JT. Maybe it's for you as well, Houghy, but when you do your pitches, right, because we walked around, we looked at them, I think if I remember correctly, you said it was Legend, right? That's out there, right? Do you find that it's worth trying a Zoysia, or it's worth trying something, even if it's just to have a practice wicket on or something, or is it to the case where we go, no, we know what we're doing with this, why would we wreck a good thing?
I wouldn't say we know what we're doing. We definitely have a good idea, but we are also always learning, and that was the idea behind the Legend. We were trying to get back to that classic Adelaide Oval where it would break up and spin on day 5, and we looked at the Legend and it was a bit more coarse and a bit more open, and we're hoping that the clay would break up. It did to a degree. We probably didn't have the weather on our side, and there's still learnings to take out of that. If you ask me, yeah, I do like learning and experimenting, and Damo will shoot me, but I want to try and do ryegrass pitches out here for early season so that you can have cricket trainings. Damo will say it's too much work and he's not interested, but yeah, I am big on always learning.
He's just an old fuddy-duddy, hey, you know.
But the ryegrass has a place. I mean, you go down to Hobart, all the pitches down there, our Montmaronite, our black cracking clay is right around Australia. The quickest pitch in the world and the quickest pitch in Australia is the Wacker. You're working on a clay content about 85%. You get to Brisbane, it's about 75. Go Sydney, Melbourne, Bellerive, back to Adelaide. It's all around 60, 65, around that area. But trying to grow couch grass down in Hobart, that far south, becomes more and more difficult. So the boys down there have decided to abort the couch grass, even though I tried Santaranas and all the grasses known to man. But they just go with oversowing ryegrass and make pretty good pitches down there. But to me, ryegrass is a shit grass. I've never liked it. And I think once you put it in, it becomes competition. I'd put it alongside Poa Annual. I think it's another fucking weed. But that's just me. Nowadays, for Aussie rules, you've got to oversow with rye and do the cosmetics and cut the grass up and push the pole that way, push it the other way. But there is a place for rye. It'd be interesting once you put it in, how you're ever going to get it out. It's like a mother-in-law when she comes visiting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's anything more. I think you're trying to hide your comments and your real feelings there, Les, a little bit. Can you be a bit more frank in the next answer, all right?
I was trying to be subtle.
It worked. People, we got one at the back there.
Yeah, Les, I know that Ben's not going to like the rye grass idea because he does love his rye. But I do have a question as well for Ben. How's the TIF stuff going, and when can we expect some T-block videos as well?
TIF tough. She's brown. She's dormant. We get frosts every day at the moment, like frosts that clear by probably 11 o'clock in the morning. So it is dormant. So yeah, we're even colder than it is here. We get snow. We got snow predicted next week, I think. So cool season grass is the go in Orange. We won't see it come into dormancy until, I'd say probably end of September, start of October. It'll start to come into dormancy. What did you say, the tee boxes? So I'm employing someone, my little brother, in August. So
you made it sound so official.
Yeah, I did.
I'm
employing someone, my little brother. He's a greenkeeper though, and my twin brother's also a greenkeeper, so it's in the family. My little sister's a horticulturist, so we're all into it. But we'll start probably start of September. We'll start building the tee boxes. Yeah.
There's somebody at the front here who had a question. I guess it's a preference thing. I mean, when are we going to get a Kikuyu cricket wiki? You know, what do you reckon?
There's Kaikuya wickets out there, but they're shit house.
I can imagine. I can only imagine.
We used to look after one. We still look after the facility now, the Women's Memorial Playing Fields, where it's a half an hour from here and it's a half an hour to my house. But Les felt that it was on the way home for me, but it wasn't. It was miles out of my way. So I used to go up there.
You need to learn the hard way, son.
So I used to go out there and roll out, and that was part of your development, was rolling out Kaikuya cricket pitches with a really light, crappy roller, while also being back here rolling out the practice pitches, which used to be right here, when you were learning and growing. So, yeah, Kaikuya pitches are there, but they're hard work.
What's the question we got at the front of you?
Hi, guys. Thanks for coming along. Really appreciate your knowledge and expertise and being able to share that with us. The question, I suppose, is to the three guys, Les and JT and Houghy. It's about the demands Adelaide Oval has placed on it by the sport that comes here and plays. Like, you have football and you have cricket and you have other events that come along, like concerts, for example. And there are huge demands on preparing the field, the pitch, and the ground itself. And from a grass point of view, what's the biggest challenge going from one sport to the other?
Can I kick it off by saying my last concert here was 2010. I retired in 2010 for several reasons, but wanted to give Houghy a crack. My last concert was AC/DC. 54 semi-trailer loads of product came into the ground and left. They built a bridge from the concert that was on this western side across the cricket pitches so the train could go in and out, but we just bridged it across. When the 54 semi-trailer loads of product went out with lighting and sound and scaffolding and left, I did not replace any turf. It was all Santarena. It was gutsy. Your turf has got, it's like an athlete running a marathon. If you make sure it's fed up well and healthy leading into a stressful time, it can come out the other end. What Damien's got to contend with now is fucking rye. And every time you piss on it, it dies.
I sense this is going to be a theme.
Anytime you touch it, it turns its feet up. Then you've got to replace. Like every time there's a concert now, he's got to rip up half the ground and replace it with more rye. But that's the nature of the beast. I mean, and at the end of the day, drop-in pitches enable this facility to play cricket on a Friday night and footy on a Saturday. The turfies can do it. It's the other infrastructure with media and all the other crap that takes all its time, and sight screens and whatever. But if you were to ask Damien and the boys to, okay, we're playing footy on Friday night, let's play cricket the next day, they can do it. You know, back in 2000, I did it at Docklands where we played footy on the Friday night and we played one internationals on the Tuesday, but with drop-in cricket pitches. So it's all doable, but and at the end of the day, this stadium needs to be worked. The more bums you get on seats out there, the more dollars, the more salaries get paid, the whole thing turns over. So you can't have downtime like you used to and just wait for grass to grow. And it takes Damien 3 hours to grab a cricket pitch for number 2 ground, put it out in the middle and pull a piece of the medium out there that's the same as the outfit and whack it out there. 3 hours. So, and if he puts a prepared one out, it can all work. I don't mean to steal your thunder, but I think I said before, the model here in Adelaide with a nursery out the back and the expertise of what goes on at Adelaide Oval is the envy of the world of cricket.
Do you guys want anything?
Not much to add. No, look, it's...
Right.
You've got to... Yeah, it's not that easy, but you're right. You've got to put a lot of planning in place. You know, concerts bring in the money. We're a non-for-profit organisation. The money goes back basically to football and cricket to grow the game and get it going. So from our side, we know that where we're building a stage, mainly the roadway out to build the stage, will get replaced. The ryegrass, you can't leave it down any more than a couple of days and it dies. We know probably 72 hours is a tipping point. But if you're driving cranes and semis and forklifts over it, it'd be 24 hours and you kiss it goodbye. So we work that in as soon as we understand the concert and how many concerts we got, we'll place an order for the turf. Right now we're using HG's Hero. It's with ryegrass. I mean, at the end of the day, we started off with Cooch, with Santa Ana back in 2013. Start of 2014, we oversowed for football. We can't play football AFL on Santa Ana. We could do it at SANFL level because it wasn't, televised every week. It didn't have the pressure that the AFL does. We need ryegrass there. And you don't have 6 or 8 weeks to spray it out to get it back to Cooch. If we get 2 weeks off, it's a bonus. And guess what? In those 2 weeks, we're hammering it with renovations because it's a window that we do. So we just plan. We can't get enough planning in. We've got a plan in place, really between now and the start of the cricket season. We know the windows that we've got. Anyone that watched the game on the weekend, that 22 mil that we had on Friday night, Saturday, caused us a few issues out there. It was starting to muddy up in a few spots. So for us, it's about punching holes all the time. That surface is now 11 years old. So, we're not far away. Normally it's around that 7 years. Major stadiums would look at replacing their surface. So we were 7 to 10 years. We tried 7 with our old CEO. He pushed it out to 10, and then COVID came, which has pushed it out a few more years. So we're doing everything we can to keep it fresh and healthy. But if we get rain at the wrong time, we're as vulnerable as any. I was going to say any suburban oval, that'd be lying, but we're a bit better than them. But yeah, they're the challenges you got. You just got to navigate through it and do the best you can. And I enjoy concerts now. I never used to, and now we enjoy it. We got plan A, B, C, D and E, and we wait and see what it looks like the next day once the flooring and that is up. We understand where that sits, but we've got good products. We know what we need. We know what our moisture needs to be going in before we lay the flooring. We know the products we use are going to keep it in pretty good condition. We put our preventative fungicides out there and we pull the nitrogen out, slow the plant down, and try and keep it as healthy as possible. We pull the flooring off, hope the weather's on our side and wait about 7 to 10 days, and then we start again. We put some tonics in there to, some nutrient packages, I suppose, in there with your kelps and your microbes and things like that to help, recover, but we don't give it a kick in the guts with nitrogen for a good week and a half, and then away we go. We try and get it healthy again, but we will replace. That's the biggest difference between, Les era and post Les era was the ryegrass, and we just need to replace it. Doesn't handle it. So.
JC, I've got a quick question for you, and then whoever's next will go to that. But so this morning, we waited for as if I did anything. The team were waiting for a press conference, which I never thought would affect your ability to work, right? But then I'm like, no, that totally makes sense. And then as soon as the press conference is done, aerating. Then we head off and we finished, and I came back to set up for this, and I had my kids, and I was like, let's quickly just walk around the corner, have a look. I think someone's fertilising. There was a product application going on, right? While we're doing our video, someone's raking up the dead matter, loose dead matter from the centre where the AFL ball's been bounced. There's a lot of little things that are happening. Is there something literally happening every day on this oval, especially when you got games around?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a 365-day operation. I think we're pretty lucky. We are pretty lucky. We get Christmas off. I know the boys at the MCG obviously don't with the Boxing Day test. There's not too many days of the year that we don't have someone in doing something.
And how often, because the average good bloke at home might be putting down, say, a granule fert that's 6 to 8 weeks, and maybe do a little hit of liquid every now and then, or monthly at most. How often are you feeding that ryegrass?
The granulars, we aren't too far off of that. We try to stick to that 6 to 8. But yeah, we do have a lot of foliar feeds. So we go out with the match play products, we go out with Florentine products, and we try and trickle feed it so that it's just constantly ticking along. No flushes of growth. The flushes of growth just puts more pressure on us, because then you've got to mow it more regularly. You've got to empty your catches a lot more. No one likes doing that. So yeah.
What's the next question that we had?
I was lucky enough to pick up some turf in 2013 during the redevelopment through Damien Hough. It was much appreciated. What's happened since then, Damo? Like, we went from Cooch to now, and we were talking in the car park about what's happened. Where are we now? And then you've talked just then about it's been 10 years, we're going to redevelop it. What's happening?
Yeah. So when we resurfaced back in 13, we decided to dig it up. Really, we really.
I don't try and butt in, but as Damien's going through that, the Adelaide Oval originally had a 5'6" fall from the southeastern side to the northwestern side. So the deal was to cut right back into the clay and flatten the oval out. So the oval is now flat as the MCG. So when they cost a couple of $1 million, but when they built the whole grandstand, that could then be built on a flat plane, and then you can come into it.
Yeah. So what we did was we literally did we sod cut it up. We literally got some Italian backpackers, because it was a last minute thing, and they come in. They couldn't speak English, but they got on the sod cutter and they sod cut it, and we put pallets out there and they cut it, rolled it. And that's where you got the turf from, and they put it out to everyone. Whoever wanted it, come and get it. And there was a line-up out the gate, people trying to get turf. And, yeah, that was our good deed, trying to give something back to the people of Adelaide. So, and it was great. It's great to see the photos. So, yeah, I love that stuff. So, yeah, we did that, rebuilt the oval. We went from a loam with drainage every 5.5 metres into a sand profile now with the slope on it. Flat surface, the centre wicket sits 50 mil higher. It grades off over 5 metres, and then it's a flat surface. Gravel blanket, around about 150 millimetres, but it's less on the outfield because of the 1% fall. So the sub base has a 1% fall. Drainage every 3 metres in an east-west pattern. And around about 300 layer of sand. And when we laid the turf was originally Strathair's Megair product. Strathair built the oval, and that was built with, and they've got their reflex mesh elements that make that's their reinforcing product that they use. And we used Santa Ana, built it out at Borman's Turf Farm in Langons Creek, put it in and kept it that way. So we did 2 years of trialling ryegrass establishment and eradication methods out on number 2. Sort of trialled 7, 8, 9 maybe varieties of rye. Put it in the February of the first year. We sat down with both football clubs and the cricket club and everyone and told them what the new Adelaide Oval would look like, how we needed to manage it, and how we wanted to do it at the end of the cricket season, put it in there, but we didn't want the footy to train on it for the first 6 weeks. And it went down pretty average, to be honest, the footy clubs. Lost their shit, to be honest. So they wanted to train. And we ended up oversowing it during a Shield game or before a Shield game. Best thing ever. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Oversowed in, and I don't know the exact date, but say mid-February. About 10 days later, we had another Shield game. The day after we oversowed, we had 90 millimetres of rain in it. And we never get rain like that. It poured and poured and poured. And all of a sudden we just had seed popping up, lifted the height back up to 15 millimetres. Guess what? We've never ever taken the rye out. So every year you don't take the rye out, as Les said, it'll compete with the cooch. And over time, we've just had less and less cooch come back. We used to get excited when we saw the cooch. And then over the years, we're playing around with different products. So we've now got the Hero out there. We want to use the right product for Adelaide Oval. The best way to do that is to trial it yourself in your own backyard. The Hero is a true hybrid system with synthetic fibres, and it's ryegrass. And it works, but it's intense because it's a lot of fungicide applications. To cut ryegrass at 12 millimetres, build it in our conditions in summer with the rollers around the wicket area and the event that it shouldn't be using ryegrass in our environment, but we have to with the content that we have and the amount of events that we have. So, what we're doing now is we're working through what the best product is for Adelaide Oval moving forward. Right now, we've got 3 different types of product out there. You can see, everyone's, I don't know if you watch sport for the sport or if you watch sport to look at the grass, but I watch it to look at the grass. So that's it. That's how sad I am. But yeah, you can definitely see, you can see where Ed Sheeran, for example, every bit of turf that's been replaced is named after the artist that killed the grass. So Ed Sheeran is a big rectangle about the size of a soccer field, but you can see the wings slightly different colour. And so Ed Sheeran was 10,000 square metres of Hero in the middle, and then at this end where the entry is just out here. And the wings are the oldest part, hasn't been replaced yet. So that's the original Strathair Meg Air. And the southern end has a little bit of Meg Air in the pockets, but it's also got Evergreen's Matrix through from about 30 metres out back to the goal square. So, yeah, we're trialling different things, working out what needs to happen because we're not far away from redoing it. And when we redo it, we're actually going to go down about 130, maybe 140 millimetres because that's where the backing of the original Meg Air is. And the Meg Air, when it was built, is a finer sand with a coarser sand underneath, which is giving us issues almost like a perching at that interface between the two. There's a bit of moisture holding there. And again, that was just a slight issue during the building phase back in 2013. So they're the challenges that nobody sees. That's why we punch so many holes. That's why when we don't punch holes, so there's sometimes we still have training out here during the week. When we started with both Port and Crows having a main session, even if it, when they're not playing here. And then if it was a Crows game, they would have a captain's run, and then the visiting team would have a captain's run. So we'd have 4 sessions out there. A couple of years after, when they got a new fitness coach, the fitness coach came in and said they wanted to have, and we used to make them warm up out on number 2 ground, agility, warm-ups, all of that stuff out here. And they said your tendons have a memory, so they know when they're going from. So I'm sitting there with my old turf manager kicking him under the table going, you've heard everything now. Your tendons have memories. But they wanted to come out and do all of their work out on the main oval. And in the end, the compromise was, what are you going to give up to do that? And they said, we won't come here on our away games. So it was a small win. So it took Port another 12 months to get them on board. And then where we're at right now is Port haven't had a main session here at all this year. Crows have had 4 or 5. We're trying to get it to... Yeah. We're trying to get to the point where we've just got captain's runs here. The captain's run is a selected team plus 2 or 3 emergencies. It's 45 minutes, light, fluffy, no damage at all. A main session, is like another game. It's brutal. They destroy the place where we're out there for hours fixing it up. So if we can get to that stage, but what we can't do, if we've got a main session, we mightn't be able to aerate. So last week, Crows had a main session, couldn't aerate. We get 2 to 8 mil turns into 22 mil. Saturday morning, the turf manager goes out and the whole south end is underwater. So he has to mop it off with the whale, with the absorbent roller, and take it all off, hence why it muddied up a little bit. But it's just about punching holes. And that's some of the things that people don't quite see what goes on. If we didn't have the main session, we're out there punching holes on Monday, Tuesday.
Who else has got a question out there?
Second. Keep going.
Yeah, quick follow-up.
I was going to say, don't tell my wife, but I want to transition from cooch to ryegrass seasonally.
Don't tell Les either.
Okay.
All right.
Is it actually possible, Houghy,
Yeah.
to go from rye in the winter to cooch in the summer? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
don't tell my wife though, okay?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, get your timing right.
And spray it and kill the dog as you're doing it, and the cat.
Yeah.
All right, somebody else, put their hand up if you wanted a question. I do find it is so funny that we get so in the weeds, not intended, about like, oh, this little cultivar of this little thing does this slightly differently. And I don't know, man, we're weirdos. Any questions out there? We've got somebody at the front. Oh, at the back. Yep, go.
Salutations, gentlemen. And big shout out to Les. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming down. Quick question. The local weather patterns lately have been a little bit more that La Nina as opposed to El Nino. Is that wreaking havoc with you fellas, or is that sort of a blessing in disguise? Because I know I run a filthy old Kai, but I kind of love it when it's a little bit drier because I can sort of, manage my irrigation and fertilizers and whatnot a little bit easier. But are you finding with a little bit more rain around it's making the job a bit easier?
Can I simplify by saying, to me, it's a 7-year thing. It floods today, in 7 years' time it floods. It's dry today, and then 7 years' time. I'm always been a 7-year rotation, how it all goes. And as your dad said to you and my dad said to me, it ain't like it used to be. But that goes on and on and on. But yeah, the records prove that there is global warming and something's happened and everything's melting. But we did have an ice age, and who knows where it's heading? And carbon monoxide is killing all of us.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've been overseas a bit, but I think from my side up until mid-May, we're probably needing a bit of rain. We're thinking it's too dry, but I quite enjoyed it. For the oval side of things, it's easier to manage. But the rains help us flush the crap out of our soil, so we quite like. I want the rain. I would just like the rain after a game for a couple of days and then dry out leading into the week, but it doesn't work that way. But yeah, I mean, from our side, our winter pressure is trying to dry the surface out. So punch holes, penetrants, try and keep it open, have a healthy root system and a healthy soil. Different challenges at different times. Winter challenges is drying it out. Summer is managing disease.
We irrigate with torrents water, so we get a lot of salinity build up. So that flush of rain really helps us. But, yes.
Mate, I don't think I want any monkey's piss on my lawn, especially if it's ryegrass. Hey, Les. What other questions have we got?
You said something earlier about Homer 31 on the pitch. It's close to our heart because my sons are either side of me and potential father-in-law next to me. The test match is coming. So much so that my eldest son put in Homer in his back lawn, and I've converted part of my front lawn to Homer, and we're looking forward to the cricket match that's coming up. But tell us a little bit about preparing for a home use a Tahoma 31 for a pitch?
Look, I enjoyed it. It was different to the Santa Ana, but it's still a cooch grass. So at the end of the day, what we found was the growth in the roots was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. Was that the Tahoma, or was that just unbelievable growing environment in Florida? I'd probably say the latter as much as anything. In regards to the preparation side, there wasn't a lot of difference. It was we kept it tight with our cutting because of it was just T20 cricket. So keep it tight. Made sure there was no thatch in there. And then when we went to prepare it, it prepared like any other cooch pitch. So it prepared quite well. When you're dealing with pitches at Adelaide Oval, you got short format, you got long format. Some you're leaving more thatch in there than others. Others you're renovating them 6 weeks out. So we were able to do them all the same. So it was a good choice for us. But yeah, whether it's Tahoma or Santa Ana or the TIFF, whatever it is, there's, I don't know, the cooches are, not all cooches are the same, but with the pitch preparation side of things, it was the same philosophies and the same approach.
Right, we have already gone over an hour, believe it or not. If anyone who has a question or would like to ask at one stage, could you all put your hands up at the same time here? We've got one more. There we go.
This is probably...
no, we got more than that. Okay, there are a few more.
Pointed to Les.
If I could just pause you for a second. What we'll try and do is we'll try and do a little bit more rapid fire to get through so that everybody who's wanted to ask a question at least gets a chance. And so maybe, quick questions, a little bit more detail, a little less detail, and then we can at least allow everyone a chance and go from there.
Les, it's pointed to you. You've seen a lot of cricketers, sports people come this way. Some of them have got statues. Where's yours?
I once had my face on a shithouse door and they took that down. And it said exit that way with me pointing. I have a love affair with this ground, always have since 1969 when I started here. I started here 2 weeks before man walked on the moon. That's how long ago it was. But, it's a love affair with Arthur Lance, the guy before me. I was his understudy when I first started, and it was fantastic. And that's where I look at the future and what Damie's achieved in his time. And I'm proud of Damien, very proud. I've always treated him like a son. I have 2 daughters and I'm one of 7 boys. And, it's just nice to see good people go well. The network's around. But as far as a statue, I suppose you've got to die before they do something. Maybe I should grab a roll and stand in between them.
Do you know what you could do? You could always just paint your own face in the oval when they're not looking with a bit of glyphosate, I reckon. Might last just as long. Be a love of ryegrass as well. At the back there, what have we got?
Yeah, I've got a question for you guys, I guess the whole panel there. When you're going, I guess, mowing, how often, I guess for Ben, we see a bit of you on your YouTube videos, but you're green at home, Ben, and obviously you guys with your cricket wickets and that, how often are you mowing? Is that like a daily reoccurrence sort of thing?
Quick fire, the more you mow it, the better it'll be.
Not every day though. No, we're subject to how often it's the growing of the turf. So this time of year, maybe twice a week. Obviously the presentation side of things is really important. Safety is the most important thing. But home.
Just in general, like your cricket wickets though, and obviously Ben's home ground now. Like how frequent are you guys getting out there?
From our side. At home, I'm lucky to do it once a month. But here it'll be a couple of times a week when it's really cold and wet. It's not growing well. Shoulder periods at the start or the end of the season, probably 3 times a week. Cricket season, we cut every game day, but we're probably cutting 5 times a week out of the 7 days. Yeah.
Houghy, there's a contractor in here who bought a MoMaster off me. So if you need somebody to look after your lawn, here we go, mate.
I like MoMaster.
You'll get your business card later, right? What other questions do we have?
MoMaster has my blessing too. One thing about a company like that, and I know everybody's here doing that a little bit, but MoMaster have looked at specifics as far as cricket pitches and rollers and mowers, and they've asked the people in the field what their expectation is, and they've designed their machinery according to the expectation of the end user in Australia with MoMaster out of Perth. So with the lawnmowers and scrapers on the back, and be able to lift them and clean them for cricket pitches and the way they do the rollers. So yeah, a big shout out to MoMaster.
Also, another shout out is that Luke from MoMaster gave me Houghy's email, and Houghy doing the podcast eventually is what ended up leading to all this. So, Luke, you can take a commission on the losses I'm making on this event. You know what I mean? Nah, I'm joking. All right, about the back, what have we got?
Just a question for Les. Cricket pitches. Winding back the clock, 2007, I reckon Warney took numerous wickets on the last day. Was that one of your best cricket pitches? And then 2-part question, was there a certain cricket nation, which was harder to cater for over your time?
2006 you're talking about. I was the biggest prick in Adelaide for 3-4 days. And I remember Damien standing outside the players' gate, members' gate, and staff were being abused by these 4 dickheads in the outer. So I went across to them and I said, "What's your problem, boys?" I said, "Oh, well, we just having a bit of fun." I said, "Well, it's not fucking funny." Sorry, I didn't say that. It's just not funny. I mean, if you're going to have a crack at me. I said, "What's your issue?" I said, "Well, they're making too many runs." Just so happened, if you go through the game, and I'll try to make this quick as I can, but as a quick story, Ricky Ponting, there were guys on the ground staff during the academy. Ricky Ponting's on my ground staff, Brett Lee, Mitch Johnson, Haddon, Ian Harvey, all these guys I never knew were going to be decent cricketers. Anyway, this particular game, you've got Ricky Ponting as captain of Australia. I'm standing out in the middle with Andrew Hilditch, and they said, "What do you reckon, Les?" I said, "Look, this is just a typical. The weather leading in's been terrific. It's all ideal. I can't see any gremlins." And they said, "We're not too sure whether McGrath should play. He's got a bruised heel 3 days out of Brisbane. So it's up to Glenn whether he plays or not." Glenn decided to play. The Poms won the toss. Collingwood made 200 and bit, and Poms made 550. I become the biggest prick in Adelaide, as if I was out there bloody bowling. And then we go out there and we make 530. I'd become a bigger prick in Adelaide. Anyway, then went on and it got to the last day, and Mark Taylor was giving me plenty on TV, and he came out in the morning of day 4 and he says, "Les, I don't suppose you're speaking to me." I said, "Mark, I'm speaking to you, but I don't get what you're saying. You play cricket. I mean, there's been the odd drop catches. The way the game goes, for God's sake. The players play the game. I'm not taking any responsibility for that." Anyway, we shook hands and he walked away. It got to morning of day 5, and it was starting to open up a little bit, but you needed half a miracle. And then it got to lunchtime. I put the jacket and tie on, went in the committee room, and Ian McLaughlin said, "Funny game, cricket. Let's see what happens." Straight after lunch, Warney took a run out. Brett Lee started bowling a decent line. The Adelaide Oval pitch does what it always does over 5 days. It starts with a bit for the quickies, and the bat comes on. Used to do bounce tests out there, 10 bounce tests down the middle of a cricket pitch. On day 1, it would consistently bounce within 5 inches. By day 5, it's got a 16-inch variation. Hit a crack, hit a worn area, and it's got that much variation. So you go day 1 where the variation's that much on 10 bounces, and from about 36 inches to 31. And by the end of it, it goes to 48 down to 20. So it varies. So that's why it's better to bat first. Anyway, the pitch started doing what the pitch does. Brett Lee's bowling bloody absolute rippers down the line. We knocked the Poms over for 180 on. We go down there, chase it all down, win the game. Then it becomes amazing Adelaide. Then I become the hero of the bloody ground. I mean, fair income. I mean, how fucking naive are they? And I got a text from Rob Cooper over in New South Wales. He says, "Les, you've just gone from the shithouse to the penthouse." And then I went up in the rooms, all the players, they give me a hug. They reckon it's the best game of test match they've ever played in, and for Christ almighty. So I love test cricket, and it's to me, it's the mecca of the game. And, you know, the 50-over game saved the test match when Packer came in, because it was dying a bit with the arguments and Bradman was having with Dennis in Chapel. And all of a sudden the 50-over came, new kids started following the game. From that, they started following the heroes in Test cricket, and Test cricket survived. Even today, I think the most important game for me is Australia versus England, and then probably Australia versus India in Test matches, and then the rest of it can do what it likes. I think I've answered that question, but yeah, it was an amazing game. Amazing game.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? We do. I think we got one on the front, so these will be the last two. So what have we got at the back?
Les, you're pretty synonymous with West End Brewery. Oh, sorry, up the back here. Yeah, you're pretty synonymous with West End Brewery, I think. You know, there's the stories of Kerry O'Keefe getting carried out there at 4 a.m. and playing the next day. Do you have your own story that was powered by West End?
I'm still an ambassador for West End, and with Tony Modra and Mark Soderstrom. So anytime I need beer, I just back my ute in and fill that up. So I reckon my claim to fame was billboards around Adelaide and TV ads that Damien featured in. And I become the pisshead in Adelaide that works at Adelaide Oval. And I still drink West End, and I still like West End. But yeah, I've been known to work hard and play hard. I still work hard and play hard, much to my wife's dismay. But I've never got him to play as hard as I used to. I mean, he still owes me lunch from the time he took over.
Yeah, he's too stressed out from dealing with the ryegrass, though, so you'll have to forgive him, all right? What have we got at the front?
Can I just crack one? See, I've got a microphone in my hand. I'm a ambassador for Variety, and I have been since 2001 when I started bashing, and from that put a lot of money into Variety and kids that are special needs. And Brunnings came to me recently, not Brunnings, Bunnings, who's selling a product here in Adelaide, and they asked if I would do a fertiliser. When I left here, though, I was asked by Nutrog and other people to put my name and brand on a fertiliser, and with doing that with couch grasses, you sort of controlled a little bit by in the spring doing nitrogen and iron and a balanced NPK over Christmas, and then potassiums and phosphates at the end to storage in the roots. Anyway, we've come up with this product that's Durkin the chemist, and it's all the green waste that goes out the front of your house. That green waste now goes up to Pete's Take It Up, and there's about 20 rows of it. I've been to have a look. And the first row, the back row, they put a body of a carcass of something in there for the blood and bone, and then they turn each pile over and process it. Point is, when they get to the end of it, they burn all the bad bacteria out of it, then they roll it into a ball and wet it down and make little balls out of it. Then they actually add nitrogen and a bit of iron, a bit of potassium and phosphate. And doing that, they mix this thing together. And I've been trialling it, and it's amazing how it won't come through Bunnings at all, but only Brunnings, and it's through mitre 10s and around the place. The trouble is with this thing, it actually works. I can't believe I've tried it and tried it and tried it, and even my lawns at West Beach, you know, it's taken off. And yeah, anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about that, but it's a product that is bloody working, and it's very hard to get one product fits all. And once the nitrogen and the iron does a bit, you get the green colour, then you get the roots from the potassium. But the microorganisms that break down once you put this recycled green waste from the front of your house back out, you know, water retention, it breaks down slowly, and all the microorganisms work in the soil, and it's a bit of a brainer, so I apologise for doing that.
It's okay. Yeah. All right, James.
All right. This is probably going to sound like an ultra nerdy question, but given some of the very heated debates that can go on our various forums online, what would you guys say has been, through all your years in the industry, your favourite mower that you guys have used in your professions, and why? And also, do you generally mulch the grass up here, or do you catch it, or what do you do?
Okay, hold on a second. You stuck in about 16 questions there.
Yes.
Well, okay, all right. So, very quickly, your favourite mower, why, and mulch versus catch, each one of you.
I'll start. Favourite? Look, I'll start the answer by saying we've had a long relationship with Toro. Started probably with Les, but yeah, I'm a fan of Toro. So we've always had good support from them. But in regards to their mowers, I just can't fault it, to be honest. So whether it's the Flex for the pitch that I use, outstanding piece of equipment, especially for what we do with the drop-ins, and the drop-ins can move and twist, and just to make sure we don't have any little scalped areas. So the Flex just rides every little bump that we might have, and we shouldn't have any, but if we did, it helps us. Fairway or outfield mower, fantastic. The 5510, we've got the hybrid, and it's a really good mower. Exactly what we're after. Cuts at the oval really well. You still need sharp blades, and you need to do the work so the mechanic stays busy, but I can't fault it. So, but I am biased, I will say that. In regards to catching or not, we obviously, being a high profile surface, we try to catch as often as possible, purely because we're trying to minimise the organic going back into the profile. So we catch. We think it's a really good story in regards to recycling, putting it back into compost or mulch back through the council. And we understand that we might be losing some nutrients along the way by harvesting and getting rid of it. But we're quite unique, I suppose, that we do have budgets, but we get to put the products out that we think we need to put out there.
That was quick. Good work. Toro for the mowers, and catch so that you're reducing your black load or your organics in your black loads.
Look at that efficiency.
In the 1980s, we were cutting out heel gang mowers, and the wheel ruts that those gang mowers used to use, the old buggers in the room will testify to, especially ruts everywhere, compaction. There's a seminar in Sydney that's, and Adelaide bought the first Fairway 223D Toro. We bought the first one here in Adelaide, and from that day forward, it was a magnificent vehicle, and since then you've updated the 500, 501, whatever. But the thing about catching too is, if you fertilise one day, don't run the mower over and catch it all the next day, and pick up your fertiliser and chuck it in the bin. Normally the first cut after, just cut and drop it, but you want to make sure you're not leaving it too long so you're catching too much grass and leaving grass out there. But your first cut after one of the things after Lance taught me, first cut after you fertilise, don't pick it up, put it in the hopper, leave it out there, just cut it and drop it.
Right, Ben, finish us off.
I'm going to be a cop out, and I don't really have a favourite. I'll be honest.
Get out.
And I love catching. Love catching.
All right.
Every day of the week.
If anybody cares about my opinion, Ryobi 18 volt blunt blades, and no, nobody cares. All right, then moving on. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Can we put a round of hands together for a round of applause for everybody who came tonight? I neglected to mention that there is actually, if you've noticed on the left here, a blower pack that we are going to give away tonight. I'm going to end the live recording. Does somebody in here have a coin? All right, thanks for listening to that. If you want to see more of our live stuff, we actually have an event in Sydney. It may be tomorrow. It may be the day that you're listening to this. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to get this out. It's going to be the 18th of July in Sydney at Blacktown International Sports Park. The guest lists are off the charts. We've got some of the best hedge trimming specialists in the country in Craig Ratcliffe and Nick Frame, both been guests on the podcast before.
Their work is insane. We have some lawn specialists in Ian Thompson from the Lawn Shed and Heath Taylor from Blacktown International Sports Park, both very experienced, long time in the industry and doing some great work. And finally, a surprise announcement this week. Dennis Scott, the landscaper from Selling Houses Australia, one of the most popular episodes we've done this year. Very likeable guy, and also happens to be on one of the most popular shows on Foxtel. He's going to come as well. So if you like that sort of stuff, we have that one in Sydney. We also have on the 27th, we have an event in Newcastle with Sean from Blake Mate. We have Brenton from the Aussie Lawn, Gary from Aussie Lawn Styles, and Joe Rogers from Lawn Solutions Australia. So that is a lawn fest if you ever heard of one. And Brisbane, we can announce as well. We have Matt Oliver, the head of turf at Suncorp Stadium. Dennis Scott again from Selling Houses Australia, and Lenny Lawler. Many consider him the godfather of the home lawn enthusiast movement, starting Aussie Lawn Fanatics. Great guy too. If you want to be at that sort of events, the tickets are below. All of them are free thanks to the sponsors. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next podcast.